Hey, everybody, it's Caesar here with the Local Service Podcast, and today we bring you yet another different location. That might be the move. That might be the next thing I do is just like keep trying different locations in different areas of the apartment, of the office, just out there, just some random places. A, because it's fun. B, because I just like seeing what it's like. Like, even though it's generally the same, like it is a different feel. Like, what's it like to have a couch and sit here and lay back a little bit? What's it like to be inside the office when it's completely dark with the light? What would it be like if I was outside? What would it be like if I did this at my parents' house? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It excites me just to move around to try different things, and I think that's why I like marketing so much is because the answer is always evolving. It's not always the same answer. It's, hey, Google Ads was working with these keywords. Now it's not. Hey, Google Ads was working with broad match modifier. Now it's not because they changed it. Hey, this website used to convert way well, but now it's not because SEO algorithm changed and people aren't finding our site. Hey, this picture used to do very good, but now it's people are bored of it, so we got to change it. And so that is commensurate with just my personality, I guess, something I'm noticing while because I'm talking to the camera, like I'm voicing my thoughts. And even though it's different, like when you think it in your head, it's like, okay, it's just a thought. And then when you say it, it's like, okay, now I'm hearing my own thoughts. So it kind of changes a little bit. And it's pretty fun, actually. It's kind of another side to thinking, I guess, or in a more in-depth way of thinking. And then you reflect on it because I have to watch these videos to edit them and create the clips and put them on YouTube and put them on Instagram and put them on TikTok and so on and so forth. So that is the opening ramble to today's episode. But today, I think I'm going to have a good episode today. So today, it's going to be probably the top 5 questions that I get as a marketing agency person, and probably just a common one that people come up with. And that question is, what budget should I start with? So that is usually one of the questions that people have. Like, even if you don't know much, you at least want to know, hey, I don't really know how marketing works or what platform to use or what's the most effective strategies or really understand the internet. But hey, I do understand that I have to put money towards something, and I want to know how much do I need to put. So there's a couple scenarios, right? So I think generally people are open to the question of how much should I spend. But there are other situations where it's more like, what's the minimum amount that I can spend? So we're gonna go through this in the lens of a local service business, because that's what this podcast is all about. And so I got a couple bullet points like I usually do on the iPad this time. As you can see, we're not even using the MacBook today because the MacBook is already set up in the spaceship, and what's in the spaceship, you gotta let it fly. You know what I'm saying? And this is good enough. It's literally just a couple notes. I could use a piece of paper if I wanted to. So got these on a run. No specific order. Just thought about them. I have 6 bullet points, so I'm gonna run through them and see how good we do. All right, number 1, when you ask, what kind of budget should I run? So the first thing, I think, without being a marketing agency myself, right? Like, that is my business. That is what we do. We, of course, want you to come in and stay with us forever and spend as much money as you can as long as you're getting really good results. That's the agency side. So put that aside. We're not going to use that part of our brain today. We're going to use, if you're running ads for your own business in a giant overview, the macro level, okay? So it's not so much, am I paying someone to do it? Am I doing it? Is it, how much do I spend on marketing for my business? That is the question. You're the owner, you're the marketing director, you're the Google Ad specialist for this company. So how much is it that I need to spend for this business? And I would say number 1 is think, and this is also general stuff. Number 1 is think long term. Like, we've all heard this. It's so funny. It just these sayings and expressions keep coming back around and back around and back around. But even with marketing and ad spend, think long term, because you don't want to say, I want to spend $2,000 a month and I'm going to give it a month. And if I get results from it, I'll keep doing it. If I don't get results from it, I'll stop. Because $2,000, $5,000, $500, it's honestly somewhat subjective what the budget is, because to some that may be a lot, to some that may be a little. But the idea is not so much what the budget specifically is number wise. The idea is how long is it going to take to make these effective? Because as I've said before, marketing works. Everything works. You want a cold calling team, it'll work. Again, you want Facebook ads, it'll work. Google ads, it'll work. It all works if you make it, if you stay in that lane and figure it out and make it a positive return on your investment. Sometimes that return is 3 months. Sometimes that return is a year, right? Generally speaking, that's going to be your SEO. But the reason you want to think long term is because this game of marketing doesn't end. It is a continuous thing. People are going to be going to different places. People are going to go to a website. People are going to go to TikTok. People are going to go to Facebook. People are going to go to Google search engine. People are going to go to some mall, and there's going to be a bench there that has a sign of some lawyer that says, call me. So the places that you can specifically advertise on, see, I'm not even talking about digital marketing right now. I'm talking about if you're going to do marketing, which, if I'm not mistaken, if you run your own business and the goal is to get, not even, okay, so the goal is to grow. That, I mean, plain and simple, if you're going to do marketing, the goal is to grow. If you're doing marketing just to stay alive, that's pretty much a bad position to be in, because marketing shouldn't be about staying alive. Marketing should be about growing, because those are two different things. If you're marketing to stay alive, that means you're like hanging by a thread. That's not this conversation. That's a different problem. This problem we're trying to solve is how can we grow with our marketing efforts? Because it could be that you have, depending on your business, you have, your 100 loyal customers, and they will keep you in business. You don't have to market. With that word of mouth, you'll be good. So there's that scenario, and that's perfectly fine. Like, that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just there are different scenarios. So if you're trying to market your company to grow, then you have to think long term, because it doesn't end. And so when you're making decisions like, okay, what should my budget be? Well, if it's gonna be, if you say, okay, I can do $5,000 a month, but that's really gonna hurt. Like, that's gonna hurt in 3 months. If I don't get my money back, then I'm gonna just stop it. That's not the best idea. It's better to do, you know what? Let me do $1,000 a month. I could stretch that across whatever 5 to 15 months, and that gives us more of a chance to be patient with it. We don't have to panic when it's coming out every single month, the money. We don't have to be like a hawkeye on the ads. We can take our time with it. Now, of course, there are scenarios, right? Like maybe it's holiday season, and in the holiday season, that's when you really sell the most stuff, or when your most services come, or it's the summer, and whatever service you provide comes in the summer. If it's really cold, that's when you provide your services. So there's those kinds of things, but this goes back to the initial thing. Think long term, because if you knew that was coming, then you should have been doing it. Like that, you should have started practicing for it 6 months ago, so that when the time came, you were more prepared for it. Because there's going to be a lot of things that you don't think of when you set up campaigns, when you run marketing. It might be that it just straight up doesn't work. Like, it straight up might be that, hey, I tried Facebook ads and it just didn't work. Like, you gave it a shot, you gave it a fair amount of budget, you really put time and effort into it, and it's like, okay, it's time to stop this one and go look somewhere else. And that's something you can figure out with time. And so long-term strategy, or think long-term. So what should your budget be? It's whatever you think you can do for a long time. And so if it's $500 a month and you can say, okay, I feel fine spending that indefinitely, great, start with that. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, then fine. You can say, I want to do $2,000 a month and feel okay with it. It's not something I can just burn off for a whole year, but I feel comfortable enough being that aggressive. You don't want to go into a position where, you know what, I'll spend $5,000 a month for 3 months, and if I don't make my money back, my business is trashed, like it's dead, because I don't have enough customers, and I will have all that. Those are my last pennies. That's what you don't want to do. Like, if you're in that position, that's already a position of Hail Mary. Like, you don't want to be in a Hail Mary position. Not like that. A Hail Mary, maybe you want to do that to see, like, okay, we've had, $10,000 profit this quarter. Let's go ahead and put all that on this super cool campaign that we're just, we have the available funds to do it. Let's try this weird, celebrity influencer type thing that's going to come to our business and do a radio show with us or something like that. Excuse me while I take a sip of my protein. And so think long term, because if you want to grow with that parameter, then marketing should be something that you're constantly wanting to do pretty much forever. Like it doesn't, I don't see why people would want to start marketing. If you're trying to grow, you're trying to make more money, hire more employees, provide more services. I can't think of a good reason to stop. It doesn't mean you can't switch what you're doing, but really can't think of a good, like, why would you stop? Doesn't make any sense, you know? And so that is point number one. Point number two is a little bit more into the specifics of smaller budgets versus bigger budgets. Again, somewhat, I don't know if the word's subjective, but it's somewhat depending on your situation, right? Small can mean, again, something to someone and something to something else, something to someone else. And so, general rule of thumb is if you have a smaller budget, then most likely you yourself or someone that is on your team or in your business is going to be the one doing the marketing. If you have a bigger budget, then you can afford to hire an agency to help you find a solution to your marketing problem. And generally, this is what I've seen. I'm gonna give you some numbers, but generally, this is what I've seen: is that for if you want to hire somebody, at the very minimum, and I think at the very, 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 very minimum, with somebody reputable, that's the thing too. I think you have to spend at least $750 to $1,000 like minimum, and that would include the service fee. This is for agency or a freelancer or a contractor or somebody that'll do it, but that doesn't work directly under your company. I think at the very minimum, if you want somebody to do it, you need $750 to $1,000 per month, because some of that has to be to pay the agency, right? The cost of making the ads, the cost of monitoring, the cost of whatever tools they use, the cost of reporting, the cost of call tracking, the cost of setting up a landing page, that's going to go there. And the other part of that money is going to be used specifically for the ads. So, in a decent scenario, you would spend $500 for the service for the agency, and the other $500 you would spend on, for this example, let's use Google Ads. So the agency or the person would set up the ads, manage them, monitor them, and then $500 would go to, that's how much is actually spent for the month. And so it's weird when it's a smaller budget, because at that point, that means every $1 you spend is exactly $1 that is being spent on the person or the agency setting it up and managing it. So it's not the best. It's a little bit heavy. Like, the cost is really heavy to pay somebody to do that, because if you had, $10,000, then you'd spend, I don't know, $2-3 grand for somebody to manage it for you. And so it kind of makes like, okay, 30% of our budget goes to the agency and 70% of the budget goes to actually getting our ads up. And so that's just the price of not having a bigger budget, is that if you do want to use somebody, 50% or a higher percentage of your total monthly budget for marketing is going to just go to the agency or the person. And it's not so much that it's bad, it's just that from my experience, it's not worth it. If you're going to spend $500 a month total on ads, it's not worth somebody to sit there and do all that work for $100 a month. Like, it just isn't really a good idea for anyone to do, whether it's the business or the agency. And so if you have a smaller budget, you run the risk of, and it's hard, right? Like, just because it's an agency doesn't mean they're a good agency. It doesn't mean they know what they're doing. And just because you're, a non-marketing person, it doesn't mean you can't figure out how to do good marketing. So it really depends on the individual. But if you have, if you have $500, $750 per month, I definitely recommend that you do it yourself. And I don't think I've ever pitched this, but one recommendation I give is don't do marketing until you are in a position where you've gotten the funds for it yourself. And what I mean by that is, if you have $1,000 and that's it, like, don't spend that money on the marketing agency or tools or software or anything. Like, you have to figure out how to make that first $1,000 monthly before you can start sending it elsewhere. Because I've had people come to me and say, like, hey, like, I'm doing this, I've gotten this much available, but that's it. Like that's all I can give. And then once I give that, that company doesn't have anything anymore. And it's like, well, hold on, then we don't want it because we're not trying to take your money. Like that's not the point. The point is that you give us something that we can use to help you find more clients, customers, patients, leads, but not at the cost of drying you out of of your funds. And so the way I think about it, it's like, okay, for my specific example, Symphony Advertising, it's like, okay, I worked from home for a while, and then I was able to afford an office, and then I was able to afford contractors, and then I was able to afford a bunch of tools, and then I was able to afford this stuff, like all this equipment and stuff. And so like I feel like I got myself to a level, and then it allowed me to spend that money that I had because I made the money on my own, and now I can help spread the resources and the responsibilities using software, using tools, using people, but I don't have to depend on them or the on the tool, on the software. Like it helps my business. It doesn't like hold my business up, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. So I hope that makes sense, but I think don't immediately make money and then go give it away. Like be sure you can make your own money before you start hiring marketing agencies and contractors, because you honestly you cannot rely on that. It's a question mark. It's a gamble. It is a let's see what happens, and I just don't think it's a good idea for business owners and businesses to be put in a position where you're like, oh well, we gave them 10 grand and that's kind of all we had, so it didn't work out, and now I gotta close down or whatever. And so, again, so if it's a smaller budget, it should be a DIY thing, and then work on it yourself until you can hire somebody. So, run Google ads, run Facebook ads, try to get a business from it. And once you can say, okay, now I'm making, enough money so that I can go and hire somebody to help me improve these ads, to help me give me tips to create good creatives, good designs for it, then you can do it. Then you can hire somebody. So like smaller budgets, and then, this is usually how it goes. If smaller budgets is bootstrap, bigger budget you can hire people. Like that's just the way it is. And so that was point number 2. Please allow me to take another sip of my protein shake. Number 3 is pretty much kind of like I covered in point 2, is marketing is a gamble. So whatever money you have that you want to spend monthly, long term, I'm trying to connect all the dots here, you should know that it is a gamble. It is not a surefire thing. It's not a guarantee. And if anybody tells you, I can guarantee you 5 closed leads a month, there should be something actually backing that up, because it's not that easy. And it depends on the budget. Like, yes, I can guarantee 5 leads, but how much do you have to spend? If you spend $500, great. That's perfect. I'll take a client. I'll take a lead for $100 every single day. Here, take as many $100 I have. But if it costs me $2,000 per lead, then it's like no, because if I get 5 leads, that's gonna cost me $10,000, and that's just like out of my scope. That's not what I want to pay for leads. So you have to look at it in that way, and that it is really a gamble. Like it's all a gamble. It really is. It's an educated gamble. I mean, there's a bunch of research done. You shoot your best shot. It's not like you're just flipping cards or shooting craps. Like it's not that type of gamble. It's definitely more of like a strategy driven, if you think this way, right? It's more of a strategy driven gamble with where you try to control as many factors as you can, but at the end of the day, you're trying to get customers of people you don't even know. So it's not this hard, and so that was point number 3. Point number 4, the difference between $500 budget and a $5,000 budget. And so this goes back to the first one. It goes into the first one, but it breaks down a little bit more. So with a $500 budget, you can pretty much only do one campaign because there's not enough meat on the bone. I always use this analogy, and it's pretty much a bad one, but I think it's funny. So imagine you have 2 pieces of bread, right? And then you have you want to make a peanut butter sandwich. and all you have in the peanut butter jar is like a sliver of peanut butter. And so you can put it, there's enough to put enough peanut butter on just one piece of bread, but there's really not enough to put in the second piece of bread because you're out of peanut butter. So it's better just to eat that one slice of peanut butter than to try and make multiple peanut butter slices of bread. And so if you do have more peanut butter, let's say you have a bunch of peanut butter, like where it's just a new jar, and you can take a spoon and like put it on one bread and another bread and a whole loaf of bread, then you can run a bunch of different campaigns. You can do a lot of different things. You don't even have to just stick to that one platform. Let's say it's Google Ads. You can also put some of that money or peanut butter into Facebook, and you can put some of that money into a retargeting campaign. You can put some money into that into Spotify ads, and you can put some money into some display ads, and you can put some money into some TikTok ads, Snapchat, so on and so forth. And so with more budget, it allows you to do more tests, more ads, more creatives within the same time frame. So it's a huge benefit because you can run basically parallel things at the same time. So you actually speed up time is how I like to think of it. Because if you can run 10 campaigns in 1 month and when you have, let's say, $5,000, and you can only run one campaign in 1 month when you have $500, then you literally lived 10 months in that $500 a month world. And so it is an advantage. Like, I mean, of course, an advantage. And the idea is to find out, because generally, there's only a couple of things that work. There's only a couple of messaging, a couple of targeting, a couple of objectives that are actually going to provide very good results. The rest are just trying to get people to that point, like the awareness, the social media. A lot of it, that's just, hey, we exist. And then there's going to be one campaign that like kills. Usually, that's just what I've seen. And that is point number 4. Please allow me to take another sip of my protein shake. So number 5 is going to be agency. An agency-driven question about budgets is, how long should you use an agency for before shutting it down? And this goes into point 2 and 4 and basically 3 is if you are going to use an agency, then I do definitely think that you should give it at least 3 months to see what happens and let the person you hire, the agency you hire, do their thing. And obviously monitor. It depends how much you know. It depends, like, it actually doesn't, because all that really matters if you're the business owner is, like, am I getting more leads? And then are they good leads? So those are the 2 questions. Like, okay, I pay $2,000. Has anybody messaged me, contacted me, called me, emailed me, WhatsApp me, whatever it is about services for my business? If the answer is yes, then that is a good sign. If the answer is no, then that is a bad sign. And then a level above that is, okay, I had 10 leads. Of these 10 leads, 3 of them actually came in and we closed them and we made X amount of money. That is good. So let's keep that going versus, hey, we tried this for 3 months. We really got literally nothing and we have nothing to show for it. Then you can stop it. And when I say stop it, I mean, yes, like either stop the campaign, choose to do something differently, choose a different platform, choose a different agency, choose bringing it back in-house, trying something in-house. I don't necessarily mean stop advertising. That's what I don't mean. I don't mean stop advertising. I mean try something else. And again, if it goes back to the couple first points. If you're doing something for 3 months, but you did it with, $500, like it's still different than if you did it with $2,000, because it's just over time, I don't think it compounds, but it ends up being so much more. So, you'll spend $6,000 in 3 months versus $1,500 in 3 months with a $500 budget, and it's like, okay, well, you literally have 4 times less the results with the $500 budget. So, generally speaking, like the less money you spend, the longer you should be able to go, because chances aren't as good. Put it like that. Your chances aren't as good because you just can't see as much as the person who spends more. And you can't test as many things as you spend more. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of a good metaphor, but for some reason I have the grocery store stuck in my head. So imagine you only have 10 minutes a week to go to one specific grocery store in your neighborhood. And then imagine another scenario where you have 2 hours a week to go to 4 different grocery stores, 30 minutes each. Like, where are you going to find the better product? Where are you going to find things you like? Where are you going to find the quicker service? Where are you going to find the better bananas? You'll find that for the person who can spend more time looking at the different grocery stores, because it's just plain and simply there's just more time and more effort and more resources to discover new things. And when you have when you can only go to the little grocery store, then you really just go get in, get out, and that's kind of it. There's just not enough time for the rest of it. And that is point number 5. I won't be needing another sip of the protein shake right now. And then lastly, I have the budget should be commensurate. I love that word. To your business, whether you're an owner operator or you own multiple locations. So this applies depending on your local service. So if you're an owner operator, so let's say you're, I don't know, a single person air conditioning repairman, then it would make sense to have, $500 to $2,000 budget a month. Like, that would be good, to be honest. I haven't heard of that. I actually don't know if that would or would not be good, because it's probably expensive to compete with like the giant HVAC companies, right? So scratch that. But there's effort there. Versus, let's say you are a HVAC company, but you have 10 trucks, and you have 2 warehouses, one on the north side of town and one on the south side of town. Then it's like, okay, well, there's just way more people that need to be doing work. That means there should be a much larger budget, because even just to fulfill the day is going to be like a lot more work. It's not just one person. It is a fleet of vans, and therefore the budget has to be commensurate to that, because if you want a 10 van result, you can't be spending a 1 van budget, because that's just not commensurate. It doesn't make sense. If you want, if you want to, it's going to be 10 times as harder, or as much effort. That's the right way to say it. It's going to be 10 times more effort to get that booked out than it is to book one out for the single owner one. And same goes if your law office or dental office. If if you're a single doctor in a practice, then great. Single lawyer in a practice, then great. But if you're a 6-person dental office, like 6 dentists or 6 lawyers, then it's going to be different. Like, you're going to have to spend a bunch more, because there's more to fill. And I think sometimes people, businesses forget that, because they'll say, okay, well, my friend Johnny Appleseed, he gets a bunch of leads and he only spends $1,000 a month. And then they compare it to themselves, but it's like, dude, you guys have like 8 people on staff, like, and you guys are like hungry. It's like, how, hungry as in like they want to work. So it's like your days are 10 hours long. So I mean, that's tough. And I don't mean tough because it's going to be harder. It is going to be harder because there's more to fill. So it's only harder to fill if the budget is there. If the budget is there and we figure out how to get 1 lead, then we can scale it up so that we get to that spot. And so with that being said, we have reached the end point here at the Local Service Podcast episode, 5, that we are deeming the what budget should I start with deep dive for local services in the area and cities and towns and all that. And yeah, let me know if there's any specific things you'd like to talk about. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd love to help anybody out. As of right now, I'm totally free. Just hit me up. I will do my best to give some suggestions, advice, pointers. Look below under the hood. Look under the hood, anything like that. You can reach out to me at Caesar at symphonyadvertising.com. CESAR at symphonyadvertising.com, just like it's spelled out. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next one.